Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about.
Welcome to Clout 941, Sarasota's only live TV show on local politics. I'm Ron Filipkowski, the host. Last week's we had a great show with the new sheriff, Tom Knight. You know, the best thing we ever did with this show is put it up on the internet. We put it up on YouTube and on our website, clout941.com. Just allows people to be able to watch it in different forms. Just checking on YouTube, our show, just to see, it allows us to be able to see how many people watch it. Local television shows do not get rated by Nielsen. No local channels do, so you can't tell how many people watch it. And that's a great thing about the internet, is that you can. And our show with Francis Rice 2 weeks ago, we put it up on YouTube. 2,500 people have viewed our Francis Rice interview on YouTube. So it allows us to get an idea of how many people are watching it. So combined, we think our audience is about 1,000 people a week. We get about 200 hits on our website, another 200 hits on YouTube, and then of course the rest of you who watch it live. So we hope you enjoy our show and watch it at various different times. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about some local politics, but primarily the banking industry. And who better to do that than Tramm Hudson? Tramm, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Ron, thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, well, let's kick it off. Let's talk about your background in banking.
Well, you know, I tell people that I'm a recovering politician and a part-time banker now. So, now I've been in banking all my professional life. I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, went to school on an Army scholarship, served in the Army, went to graduate school, and now to graduate school was recruited to go work for the old North Carolina National Bank, NCNB, and got transferred 5 times in 7 years, and came to Sarasota when the bank purchased the old Ellis Bank. That was back in 1986, and I've been a Florida banker, you know, for 25, 27 years, and it would take dynamite to get me out of this. You know, Florida's a great state. It's a fertile banking market, and up until recently, it's been pretty good.
But you don't work for a particular bank now, right?
I don't. I have, you know, after I ran for Congress in 2006, I helped a bank up in Bradenton, Coast Bank of Florida. It was about an $800 million bank that had 20 offices around the Tampa Bay region. Had run into some trouble with some, almost like the canary in the coal mine. One of the early banks that got in trouble with some of their real estate loans, and they hired me to help get them out of that trouble, and we were able to successfully get that bank sold to First Banks out of St. Louis, Missouri. And since then, I have been working with a couple of banks that have issues with the FDIC, and I've been helping some companies locally with some of their banking issues.
You mentioned being a recovering politician and also running for Congress. Tell us a little bit about your background in local politics here in Sarasota.
Well, you know, it's one of those kind of things back when we moved here in 1986. You know, we got involved in the typical things, the Chamber of Commerce, the Committee of 100. But I'd been encouraged by Pat Neal to get involved in local politics. An early mentor of mine was also Dan Miller, who was the congressman from Sarasota in 1992 to 2002, and kind of worked my way up first, you know, in the back scenes, helping organize events, raising money. Got involved in the Jeb Bush campaign in 1994, and that was a very close race, and I can remember after that.
The Lawton Childs race.
That was the Lawton Childs race of '94. Jeb lost statewide by about 60,000 votes, and I can remember he got a number of the young people after that election and said, you know, what we need to do is we need to be able to control the party apparatus, because that was a bloody 5-person primary. And he encouraged a lot of us to get involved in the local Republican Party. And, you know, it didn't take too long. You quickly moved up in the ranks, and I served as chairman of the party for 6 years. From 98 to 2004. But Jeb was right, because when he ran again in 1998, it was a clear fill. And of course, he went on to win and then served 2 terms as governor.
Okay. Now let's talk about the banking landscape in Sarasota today. How are the banks doing, and what's the situation?
It's tough. You know, I don't want to sugarcoat things. It's, I mean, your viewers out there are probably feeling the pinch. And banks really reflect their customers. If the customers are doing well, the banks normally will be doing well. And frankly, we have been through some really staggering times in the last 12 to 18 months. The fall off in real estate values has had an effect in terms of property values. People have not been able to refinance their homes or sell their homes, and this has kind of trickled into the banks, and we see a lot of banks that are having tough times right now.
Are there any small local banks in trouble or failing right now?
I wouldn't want to really talk about individual banks. I can just say that here in the last 6 months we've had 4 banks to fail in the state of Florida. We had First Priority Bank up in Bradenton failed August the 1st. On November the 1st, Freedom Bank failed. We had Ocala National Bank to fail, I believe, in January of this year. And then most recently, about 2 weeks ago, Riverside Bank down in Fort Myers failed. But, there's one common thread throughout those 4 banks was they were heavily concentrated with real estate loans. And again, to have the kind of property value drop that we've seen, it cannot help but flow over into the banking business.
What's the biggest difference between making a loan today versus, say, 20 years ago?
Well, that's a good question. When I moved to Florida in 1982, I can remember meeting with some folks, and there seemed to be a philosophy: lend on dirt, can't get hurt. Meaning that if you took real estate as collateral, everyone knew that Florida real estate values were always increasing, appreciating, and that it couldn't disappear overnight like accounts receivable or inventory. And that whole philosophy permeated banking in Florida, probably going back to the 1920s when we first had our big run-up in land values. But today I think banks are much more cautious. They're looking at certainly things like character, of the borrower. Look at the credit. The best predictor of how someone will handle a loan is how they have handled credit in the past. Making sure that the borrower has the cash flow that can service the debt. They have the capacity to do that. And then finally, I think looking at the collateral, because you depend on the individual borrower to repay that loan, and secondarily is the collateral. And I think we're looking more at the cash flow of the individual borrower now.
All right, time for our first break. We'll come back. We'll have more with Tramm, Hudson, and of course our eagerly anticipated Weasel of the Week.